My name is Heidi. Me and my group mates Alexander, Matlub, Muhammad, and Tariq are going to discuss the implications of positive accounting theory to organizations through our chosen journal article entitled Executive Compensation and Corporate Fraud in China. On the said paper, there has been a remarkable analysis found between the executive compensation and corporate fraud in China. There can be crucial hypotheses that made firms penalize CEO for any misappropriation and fraud committed. As a result, penalty given to them was to cut a huge portion of their pay. When the CEO compensation is less in the firms, then there is high chance of fraud committed by the CEO to have extra penny in their pocket. If any CEO detected was found guilty in committing the fraud, corporate governance mechanisms influence the magnitude of punishments given the CEO. Furthermore, if the posts of CEOs and chairman are separated and located in developed regions, they suffer a larger compensation penalties. In China, the corporate fraud is highly noticed and it degrades the entity's value immensely. It is an ambiguous situation where the corporate fraud constitutes a direct breach of shareholders' trust and hence creates an ethical failure of corporate managers in performing their fiduciary duty. For further discussion, I'll pass it on to my group mate Muhammad to give you some insight of what positive accounting theory is.
Hi, my name is Muhammad and I'm here to explain positive accounting theory. Positive accounting is a branch of academic accounting research. This tells us the reason of actual accounting practices that are done in daily official accounting routine. This can be explained in three different perspectives, which include contractual perspective, efficiency perspective, and opportunistic perspective. Contractual perspective says that if we can see firm as the union of contracts and accounting methods can be used as one of the tools to follow the rules that are set in those contracts or agreements. And the second one is efficiency perspective. In this perspective, the theory explains that how different managers use different accounting methods to show the true picture of the firm performance. The third one is the opportunistic perspective. In this view, the theory argues that different managers use different accounting methods according to their self-interest, which may be due to either management compensation or debt equity or political hypothesis. This is all from my side. Now I will call Alex to come and continue the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Today we'll be discussing about the topic hypothesis development. In this case, we see executive compensation and corporate decisions are based wholly on agency theory and contract theory. And coming down to the first case, the hypothesis 1 states that CEO compensation is seen to be lower in the firms that have involved in committing fraud. While in the second case, we see that the CEO compensation is negatively related to seriousness of corporate fraud. The third one states that the compensation and corporate frauds are negatively associated with the private control firms as compared to the state-owned enterprises. While in the fourth hypothesis, the compensation and corporate frauds are negatively associated and are more pronounced in the firms where the posts of CEO and the chairman are separated. And in the final hypothesis, we see that the compensation and the corporate frauds are negatively associated and are most pronounced in those firms only in the developed regions. And further on, moving on to the next topic, the data and the methods, we see that the data of executives compensation has been obtained from Chinese stock market. And in regards to variable measurement, we consider log CEO pay as the dependent variable and the corporate fraud as the independent variable. And for the statistical method, we consider the linear model. And finally, as a result, the CEO compensation and corporate fraud are negatively related, and these are concerned with developed regions. And this is all from me, and I'll be passing it on to Tariq.
Thank you, Alex. My name is Tariq, and I will be talking about some of the approaches undertaken to measure the executive compensation and corporate fraud in China. In the first methodology, a propensity scoring method analysis was used to determine the level of fraud committed by the CEOs. The results indicated that firms with an audit committee have a less chance to commit fraud. It was also found that fraud is potentially endogenous based on the factors such as firm level ownership, economics, and corporate governance. Another method that was used was the CEO compensation, political connection, and corporate fraud, and the relationship between these three. The results indicated a noteworthy negative relationship between CEO compensation and corporate fraud in China. It also indicated that it is not only the state-owned enterprises, but also the CEOs' political connections which influence the enforcement actions. In addition to the above approaches, the CEO appointment time and fraud level of fraud was also measured. The findings showed that CEOs receive compensation penalty in the fraud occurs during their tenure at the firm, but not before the CEO's appointment. This supports the argument that members of the board compensation reduction to penalize Chinese CEOs if they commit a fraud. Based on all these findings and keeping adjacent theory in mind, it can be assumed that CEOs will behave in an opportunistic way to maximize their wealth at the expense of the shareholders. It is important for firms to establish contractual agreements to monitor the agents, in this case CEOs, and ensure that their goals align with those of the owners. That's all from my side. Now I would like to invite Matlub to conclude the presentation.
Thanks, Tariq. For today, I'm going to conclude what we have discussed above. So, in conclusion, we have examined the result paper, mainly the relationship between the financial fraud in Chinese firms and executive compensation. So, there is a significant positive relation between financial frauds with compensation, while some presented the outcomes of the negative results of these two factors. And also, we have discussed there is a negative relation in the hypothesis of the executive pay, which is a total compensation package and corporate fraud. As the compensation package is not only based on the cash pay, the evidence suggested that the firm's corporate governance, political influence leads towards committing frauds. By compiling the above discussion fraud related, but the future researcher can find a link between the motivation of executive of committing frauds and shareholders. That's all for today. Thank you for your time. Thank you.